Hello gamers, Isaac here. Today we're talking about Helldivers 2. Again. This time we're talking about Escalation of Freedom, which is supposed to be a big new update that adds a bunch of things and breathes new life into the game. That isn't all I'll be talking about because, alright, I'm gonna rip the band-aid off now. This update was pretty overhyped and delivered a lot less than it promised. So to make this video longer than 5 minutes and not be as chaotic as the first video, I'll be giving this video some actual structure. First I'm gonna go over everything added by Escalation and giving my opinions, then we'll talk a little bit about the 2 new Warbonds, and after that I'll get a bit more technical and talk about the major balance changes that happened after I wrote the script of the first video. And as a final little dessert, I'll be going over the current controversy caused by said changes and giving my take. Oh wait, I don't have an intro. Along with the update, we also have some new cover art, and I have some thoughts. Don't get me wrong, I like it, and I don't think it should change, but, well, let's go over the positives first. There's much more happening, and it looks like an epic battle is taking place, where the first looked like it could just be some regular patrol. There's also more diversity in the weapons being used other than just gun and flamethrower. Finally, and most obviously, the automatons are actually here. It was always kind of weird that they weren't there in the first place. My theory is that it was to appeal to people who like 40k, DRG, Starship Troopers, or anything that involves melting hordes of alien bugs with heavy ordnance. I mean, it worked on me. Now, it may seem like I'm thinking too hard with my criticisms, but my English teacher always says I don't read between the lines enough, so here we go. The new colors are nice, but they represent something that's been happening with the game. I talked a little bit about this in the first video, but I want to go into further detail. The game used to follow a yellow and black aesthetic with the technology, all the marketing, and especially the armor. There were obviously some exceptions, like the snazzy pre-order stuff and specialist sets that had their own color palettes, but still looked good with the yellow and black. Anyway, with every new Warbond and update, more and more armor sets were added that completely did their own thing. I may be being a bit too critical. The new armor sets do look cool, but I just miss the uniformity of old. The other thing is that the battle looks a lot more desperate. In the first one, it looked like this winning battle, besides maybe this guy about to get his face ripped off, but here the divers are packed together closer with enemies pouring in on both sides. This guy is down to his sidearm and is desperately clutching a stratagem beacon. Most importantly, the flag of Super Earth that once flew proudly is now torn and tattered. This also represents something that's been happening in the community, and that is the overarching dread. Okay, maybe that's a bit too intense, but I've noticed that the messages from Super Earth and the community itself is growing more somber. We used to sing songs of glory, but now it honestly feels like we're fighting a losing war, and the Kyria incident didn't help matters. Some may not see this as a bad thing, and to be fair, it's a fun concept. For example, XCOM on Impossible Iron Man difficulty is a great experience, where the cause becomes more desperate with resources being spread thinner and thinner. Speaking of XCOM, how did I not realize this sooner? Circling back, you may call me a mindless consumer, but sometimes I just want to sit down and have dumb fun without experiencing an existential crisis. I've had enough of those already. Along with the new update came some new merch. If you haven't noticed, I'm going through all the superficial stuff first. If you couldn't care less about cosmetic changes and stuff outside the game, skip to this time frame. Are they gone? We finally have some official merch. Before, all I had was this kick-ass shirt I got from Hot Topic. Anyway, this merch is sold on U2s, which is like Funko, but instead of millennials, is targeted towards Gen Z. They have a couple models and oh hey look, Indigo Park. I'm not a toy reviewer in any way, but I still want to give my opinions. The 2 Helldivers look cool, but then look, I know it's the thing U2s does, but the disproportionately large head just isn't for me. My favorite is probably the Hulk Scorcher. It's one of the best designed enemies in the game, and I like how even the brutalized skulls have the signature happy U2's eyes. The last product I want to go over are the Charger and Devastator, and oh my god, what happened? How do you take 2 of the most iconic enemy designs and turn them into this? Starting with the Devastator, I know it's supposed to be simplistic and bulky, but bro is built like a fridge here. There's also the head, which I know big heads are the YouTube thing, but they went way too far this time. It takes up like half the body. Then there's the Charger that doesn't even look like the Charger at all. It just looks like some short, slimy green bug, and it doesn't even have the iconic orange abdomen. I don't know, if money allows, I may cop myself a Scorcher and Rambly plush. When the new update released, the devs did a live stream that I watched for all of 3 seconds and got this exclusive armor set, which is pretty cool, and oh my god, it's a different yellow! The last superficial thing is the HUD. There are some minor font changes, but what I really care about is the new look for the orders, and I don't like it. It looks like some soulless, sleek, modern design. I prefer the old one. It matched the design of super destroyers in most tech. I wouldn't say utilitarian, but it's like Halo, where we're fighting a massive war and can't afford all those fancy ships, so we have to make do with this blocky design that you can come to appreciate. Alright, the people who skip should be coming back any time now, so... And that's why I think that selling Helldivers-themed condoms was a really strange marketing decision on the devs' part. Let's go down the list the devs were provide it and I'll give my thoughts. First, we have a new difficulty for the pros. I haven't played it, go ahead, call me a pansy. But from what I've seen, it's just difficulty 9 with more enemies and rewards that are not worth it. So think of it as a nice challenge for exceptional players. Some of the screenshots I've seen look like those Joel memes of old. We also have 2 new fake tactical objectives. For the bugs, you have to kidnap a child and extract with it. The larva takes up your backpack slot, which can be devastating to my brothers in autocannons. So for some advice, you can drop it off at the extraction zone to be on your way. And the Emancipator exosuit still exists and doesn't care about what you have equipped. The bots have a bioprocessor, which is just a fortified reskin of the rogue lab that you destroy with a hell bomb. I wonder what they're processing though.
Alone at the edge of a universe, humming a tune.
There's also a new larger outpost type. For the bots, it's called a fortress, and the bugs a stronghold. As the name implies, they have much stronger fortifications and some tactical objectives. They also have a carryable item that you can extract with for some samples. Now, what we really care about, the new enemies. The Terminated have the Alpha Commander, which is also the name of an exclusive Twitch drop armor set. Anyway, she's to the normal commander as it is to the warrior, as in a flat strength upgrade. She also has medium armor, and instead of regular warriors, she summons alpha warriors, who are faster and spookier looking. You may be wondering if this changes my theory on sexual dimorphism. It does not, because despite what the manosphere may tell you, alpha females do exist in nature. There's also the Spore Charger, which functions as a mobile version of the Spore Spewer. So imagine you're just chilling, then it gets really foggy to the point where you can't see 10 feet in front of you, and then some giant beast comes out of the fog and starts charging you. Gameplay-wise, it's a weaker version of the Charger, having these light armor pustules. It also explodes into acid upon death. The final new Terminated added is the Impaler from Helldivers 1. I'm not gonna be like everyone else and pretend to be all, OMG, so nostalgic, because the majority of Helldivers 2 players have not played the first game. The Impaler fills the role of a siege unit perfectly, being slow and vulnerable up close, but super destructive at range, and stopping you from hunkering down in one location. It attacks by burrowing its face tentacles into the ground, where they emerge a good distance away and try to impale anything nearby. Even if one misses, the shockwave of it slamming into the ground can knock you off your feet. They're also pretty dangerous even when they emerge, launching you into the air. One of my favorite missions, evacuate high-value assets, is turned from a breeze where you can sit behind the walls and gun down hordes, to torture with these guys constantly burrowing under said walls. When it comes to killing them, they have impenetrable super heavy armor, so welcome to the club. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention how huge this guy is. It's like really big. It's kind of off-putting how big it is when you first come across it. Anyway, you can always use a support weapon we shall not name, but there's a much easier way to do it. When it deploys its tentacles, its soft face is left exposed, and you and your squad should concentrate all fire and it'll be dead in no time. With new enemies comes the Terminated Chart 2.0, where I also fixed the nursing spear and added the larva to round it all together. The images may be rough, but being new units and all, the wiki doesn't have those nice renders I can steal. The automatons only get 2 new unit variations, with the reinforced Scout Strider that gives the pilot full protection makes it look even more like an ATST. It also has side-mounted rocket pods. The regular Strider functioned as a lighter version of the Devastator, and this the Rocket Devastator. You can still hit it in between the legs and also detonate the rocket pods. There's also the Barrager tank, which had its turret replaced with a huge MLRS. It functions as mobile artillery, kind of like what the Bile Spewer does on higher difficulties. It's not a pushover at close range though. It still has the hull-mounted machine gun and can lower its turret and blow you to Kingdom Come. Speaking of tanks, the anti-tank mines were added, and I'm very disappointed in you all. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the anti-tank mines were a meme in the community. Every time the devs gave us the option to get them, and they tried, we would always turn it down, sometimes purposely failing major orders. But the community failed, and now they're available. I'm still doing my part in refusing to requisition them, making my stratagem list always one off from being complete. Acid storms not only reduce visibility, but also corrode armor and make it less effective for you and your enemies temporarily. There's also a new, spookier version of the swamp biome that was added earlier. I like the aesthetic, and it lends itself to a stealth guerrilla elite operator playstyle, but 6 months too late, bud. The 2 new Warbonds bring a couple new things to the table that will probably set the precedent for future Warbonds. Those being vehicle skins, patterns. These give you a lot of bang for your buck and will show up in the Super Destroyer as well. My gripe is that they do feel out of place in certain biomes. I don't know, I was always that guy who got mad in Battlefront 2 when people wore the Short Trooper skin on planets that weren't Tatooine or Scarif. The other thing added were titles that aren't tied to level or Super Citizen, but you kind of have to play the role if you equip them. The first new Warbond is Viper Commandos that was added along with the first Swamp biome. This Warbond is tailored to jungle combat and will turn you into an 80s action hero with big muscles, throwing knives, the Wristbreaker 9000, performing performance-enhancing drugs, that one scene from Predator, and most importantly, swole! On a more serious note, the Liberator Carbine is just a Liberator with worse recoil. I know that's what carbines are like in real life, but there aren't any situations for close quarters combat, even in the swamp biome that it's made for. On a more positive note, the PH9 Predator helmet is one of the best looking helmets in the game, at least in my opinion. The other new Warbond is Freedom's Flame. This one revolves all around fire, and with the fireproof armor that we've all been waiting for. Although it's not actually fireproof and only fire resistant, this means you still ignite and scream in agony like normal, but this time you die much slower. This completely ruins the armor in my eyes. You can't roleplay Meet the Pyro and march interrupted through an inferno, torching everything you see with a flamethrower. All it is now is just protection for planets like Hellmire. They do look pretty cool though. There's the Torture, which is the flamethrower but as a primary weapon. Turning support weapons into primary weapons is a pattern I've noticed recently. There's also the Crisper, which is hilariously bad, being a tiny pistol-sized flamethrower. This thing seems like it'd be more effective for lighting campfires, or like a bong. The last thing I want to talk about is the Firebomb Hellpod booster, which causes Hellpods to detonate into flames before deploying. It also works for the Hellpod you deploy in, killing all nearby enemies and allowing you to spawn safely. Now, for what I think, there have always been bad boosters that have such minuscule effects that they're pointless to equip, but there's never been a booster that actively hinders you and makes the game harder, until now. Shockingly, turning your support stratagems into orbital napalm strikes seriously mixes up gameplay. I've been taught for 150 hours to deploy support stratagems close by. I'm not going to talk about all the changes. Quite a few of them are just minor tweaks to certain weapons, and I only want to talk about the ones that I deem important. Some of these are buffs to weapons and stratagems that were widely considered useless, which is awesome. The machine gun sentry used to be a weaker version of the Gatling sentry, with its only advantages coming in the form of killing streakers, and if you get caught in the crossfire, there's a chance you might actually survive. This is balanced in a really creative way, with all the stats remaining the same except for the cooldown, making it fill the role of a mini sentry. It's also nice to have more Hellpods to call down. I know I made a whole meme spectacle about them last video, but they're pretty good, and when it comes to destroying outposts, if you're out of grenades, when the enemy AI breaks and the charger just stands there menacingly, and there's also the fire bombs. Perhaps I judged you too harshly. The Eagle rocket pods were the word inconsistent made manifest. They were capable of killing chargers and even bile titans, but often missed or hit unimportant parts. This patch gives it much more reliable targeting and penetration. The heavy machine gun was the butt of the community when it released. Sure, it did more damage, but its recoil was insane, and more importantly, it chewed through its 3 75-round mags at ludicrous rates, and it had a painfully long reload time. It was patched to have a faster reload, lower fire rate, and more damage/stagger. All these changes improve ammo economy and make it feel like a heavier version of the machine gun. I'll often see players casually using it, and it always warms my heart to see people using the stance system properly to minimize recoil instead of just sprinting everywhere and dolphin diving. The Tenderizer used to be a worse version of the stock assault rifle with its lower bullet capacity, and it was one of the many reasons why people hated Polar Patriots. A patch further decreases its capacity, but turbo buffs the damage, turning it into a powerful assault rifle that rewards good accuracy. The exploding crossbow has always been a niche weapon that I kind of like, and it's especially good during the evacuate high-value assets missions. Anyway, it was buffed to be able to destroy buggles and bot buildings. Strangely, it's also one-handed now. I spent a lot of time theorizing why by pacing around the house and making weird noises. Look, most geniuses were considered mad in their time, and I think it was done to give more versatility to people carrying the SSSD or with a ballistic shield. Before this, the only options for medium penetration were the grenade pistol that has horrible ammo economy and runs the risk of detaching every limb from your body, or the Senator, which, although I love it, takes all 6 shots to kill a humble hive guard. This thing gives the SSSD carrier some bite with being able to take down medium and even heavy units. This represents another pattern I don't like. It's getting obnoxious at this point. Why am I noticing so many patterns? Have I lost my mind? Anti-armor is a role that other teammates should fill, and I've noticed that solo players are getting buffed a lot more. And don't get me wrong, I love playing solo. The flamethrower on low bug difficulties is still super fun, and playing high bot difficulties solo, sometimes if no one's home, I paint my face with charcoal and turn off all the lights. Really gets the blood flowing. Anyway, I love playing solo, but this is a team game first and foremost, and I feel like solo players should be punished. The last buff I want to talk about is the guard dog. This thing was probably the worst stratagem in the game, being a drone with a Liberator assault rifle strapped to the bottom. This thing would mag dump the first thing it saw and run out of ammo super quickly, making the rover drone with a laser rifle literally better in every way. It was buffed to have more mags. This is a temporary fix, but a good start. Now just upgrade the Peacemaker and we'll be golden. There's also some quality of life stuff. Acid now slows you down slightly instead of completely disabling you. You can see how planets are connected. You can get super samples on difficulty 6, which is great for the casual player. There are also invite-only lobbies, which is great, because let's just say there are some people in my friends list that I would not consider friends. Since we talked about the buffs, I guess we should also talk about the nerfs, and okay, I can't avoid it anymore. Let's talk about the When the Fire Warbond released, fire weapons were nerfed. One of the nerfs was when it came to penetrating heavy armor. I see what the devs were going for. Flame weapons are supposed to be close range area denial against light units, and if you want dedicated chip damage that goes armor, then use the arc thrower. But I feel like they could have handled it in a different way. Okay, editing Isaac here. The devs decided to reverse their decision on the fire penetration. They haven't reversed anything else. Like I said, I don't really care either way because I almost never use the flamethrower, except sometimes on purge hatcheries if I get bored. Now, for what everyone cares about, the nerfing of the beloved incendiary breaker. And to that I say, good riddance. This gun was hilariously overpowered, and I'm kind of surprised it took them so long to nerf it. It wasn't even that big of a nerf, but people are losing their minds and acting like the game is unplayable now. I'm tired of internet troglodytes thinking that they know more than seasoned game developers. This game is meant to be easy so I can have my power trip. Shut up. If you could just easily kill everything in your way and quickly complete operations, then the balance of the galactic war would be completely ruined, there would be no stakes, and most importantly, it wouldn't be fun. It saddens me that in 2024, people still don't understand that you need pushback to have fun. I also feel really bad for the dev team because unlike other studios that couldn't care less, as I made abundantly clear in the first video, Arrowhead is very close with the community. Never before have I seen so many full-grown men crying online about numbers in a video game. I'm leaving the community because of this. Fine, if you're so disloyal and emotionally unstable, then we don't want you. Normally I wouldn't talk about this. These people clearly just want attention and will probably give up in a couple months, but what they're doing is unforgivable. What are some ways to voice your disdain with the game other than harass the dev team and post abysmal takes in the forums? The next step is obviously to grief every other player, because if you're not having fun, then no one else can. These so-called chaos divers will go out of their way to ruin the game for other people and sabotage the war effort, but the worst part is that they're so full of themselves they actually think they're doing good. The amount of attempts I've seen to rationalize this is insane. That's cute, you guys made your own little flag, but I can't believe I need to say this. If you are intentionally killing your teammates in a team game, then you are in the wrong. They try to fall behind the everything is canon rule and act like they're constructing some grand narrative, and oh god, I feel the black rage setting in. The Horus Heresy was a fictional story in a fictional setting that affected fictional characters. I know narcissists think that other people haven't achieved sentience, but this is just stupid. You're not achieving anything. You're just a bunch of toxic crybabies. To finish this off, I want to wrap everything up with a nice bow. I may have been a bit too critical, but this update seemed really overhyped. Don't get me wrong, this update had a bunch of needed changes, but that's exactly it. It feels more like updates that would span a couple months smushed together. Besides the Impaler, all the new things are just remixes of what we've seen before. From the way this was hyped up, it seemed like it would significantly alter the gameplay loop by adding something big like vehicles or the Illuminate. Speaking of the Illuminate, I really hope they don't become like a YouTuber's face reveal, where they're constantly milked and only come out when the numbers are getting bad. It's been 3 months without a single people. Like, give us something. Even a cryptic message would do. Ooh, actually, do all the cryptic messages you want. Make a whole damn ARG out of it. What if we get Game Theory to cover our game? Good work on the update, guys. Maybe be a bit more honest next time. Best of luck to Shams when it comes to piloting the ship. Indigo Park review coming soon. Remember to like and or subscribe, and comment below what position you would fill on the Sturmpanzerwagen A7V. Oh, and death to the Chaos Divers.